everyone. Welcome to our live broadcast. We are continuing on with study of the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Ones. Today's quote, today's sutta is, or Vagga actually, it's a whole chapter. Very short, what you might call suttas, but each one is only a couple of sentences. And this is on the 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances are they're one of the staples of the meditation practice. The first things you have to know in your practice of insight meditation or any type of meditation. In fact, they're essential for success in any realm, meditative or otherwise. And their designation as hindrances means they get in your way, they obstruct, they prevent success, they prevent progress, they inhibit, they keep you stuck. Nivarana, we talked about these Nivarana. We talked about these, I think, it was earlier. Was it on the broadcast, I think? The word Nivarana. It means it keeps you back, holds you back, keeps you from attaining your goals. You see, you just see this most clearly in meditation. You're training the mind, and you're cultivating clear and profitable states of mind. So you see quite clearly the things that are preventing you from having a clear mind. There are five hindrances, and they're essential learning for a new meditator. Essential that you're able to recognize and to overcome the 5 hindrances. So there are different ways of dealing with each of the 5 hindrances. As with everything, there's the conventional methods, and then there's the methods based on ultimate reality. So there are conventional methods, like eat less and you'll be less tired. It's conventional. It's not based on the moment-to-moment experience. In moment-to-moment experience, really, is much more simply to do with how mindful you are. As you're more mindful, you cultivate all the wholesome qualities that are necessary to overcome the hindrances. But it's interesting to single out the cause and the cure for each of the hindrances, because they have different qualities and therefore different causes and cures. So the Buddha says, Nahang bhikkhave anyang ekadamang. I don't see samanupasami, I don't see one Dhamma, one other Dhamma that causes unarisen, by which unarisen sensual desire arises, or arisen sensual desire becomes greater. Biyo bhavaya vepulaya samvartati. So the first one is sensual desire. And he phrases it this way, that there's one thing that causes the arising of sense desire. It's interesting to know It helps you get to the root of the problem. The sensual desire or desire in general is a hindrance. It prevents you from seeing clearly. It clouds your judgment, partiality. When you like something, you're unable to see whether it's good or bad for you. You're unable to see the true nature of it. Your desire supersedes your reason, your judgment. So it's a hindrance. And so what is the cause of, what is the one Dhamma that leads to sense desire, leads to desire? Subha nimitta. Subha nimitta. Subha means beautiful. Nimitta. Nimitta, again we come up with this word. We had it in the last chapter as well. And keep this word in mind, it's important. This is the mental formation, the construct. Nimitta means sign. So this could be translated as the sign of beauty. Subha. Seeing something as beautiful. There's a sign, there's a flag. If you look around you, if you can see this here. Look at this. You see when that comes into view, there arises the sign of beauty. Some people, unless you hate flowers. It's gone, the sign of beauty disappears. There's a sign, there's a quality. It's not inherent, actually. There's nothing beautiful about flowers, but the mind perceives them as beautiful. Maybe the other things, you see the Buddha statue here, you see my ugly face, and you have the sign of ugliness. Beauty, ugliness, these are in the mind. The mind gives rise to them. You see my face calm, it might seem somewhat attractive, but then if I go like this, then it suddenly becomes ugly. You see, the sign arises. And it changes in your mind. Your perception changes. It's just a sign. So the sign of beauty, seeing things as beautiful, perceiving things as beautiful, this is what you have to look for. You have to be aware of this perception of beauty. Catch it when it comes. And this is what you see in meditation. You're able to break experience apart moment by moment. As a result, you're able to overcome this. You're able to achieve what is called asubha nimitta, or the absence of subha nimitta. Asubha nimitta is conventionally, asubha means not beautiful. So if you examine something, I mean, take a human for example, right? So you look at a human, you might find them attractive. But then if you focus on the nature of that human form, the unattractive nature of that human form, it changes your perception. So if you look at the hair on the head, facial hair, skin, if you focus on these things, you start to see that actually there's nothing beautiful about it, right? Skin, teeth, you look at a tooth and you think about it, the beauty disappears. Nails, maybe nails are beautiful, but if you examine them, if you focus on them, there's a conventional way of sort of counteracting our attachment to beauty, to learn to see the ugliness in things. But asubha nimitta can also mean the lack of, seeing things as not attractive, simply not attractive. I mean, looking at things in such a way that they're no longer attractive. Not ugly, but to see things impartially. So when you say to yourself, seeing, it really is just seeing the subha nimitta, asubha nimitta. No beauty or ugliness arises. There's nothing beautiful about things. I guess the real takeaway from this is that it's not the thing itself that's beautiful. It's the concept in the mind, or the conceiving in the mind of something as beautiful. Number 2, vyapado, ill will or aversion. Well, ill will is the other hindrance. When something arises and you're upset about it, or you don't want something to arise. Vyapado is technically, in regards to people, it means you don't like someone. If you're angry at someone, this is a hindrance. But it can be referring to any kind of experience. It doesn't have to be a person. Maybe the birds chirping outside that make you angry. Maybe the room around you. Maybe your own body makes you angry. Maybe the pain you experience makes you angry. Anger, really, is what's meant here. Anger is a hindrance. Anger gets in the way. It gets in the way of not only meditation practice, but success in a worldly sense. Just as desire does. If you're obsessed with getting things, that gets in the way of your goals and your ambitions, as well as in meditation. If you're angry about something, that also saps your energy and takes you away from your focus. Both of these destroy your focus, and they sap your energy, so they keep you from attaining your goal. They're the real enemy. Pain isn't the enemy. No. The enemy is disliking, is aversion. But anger, this is anger, and the cause, the one Dhamma that the Buddha says, Nahang bhikkhave anyang dhammam eka dhammam. There's no other besides this one Dhamma. And that is the patigha nimitta. Patigha nimitta, nimitta again, here it can't be translated as sign. It means, nimitta, we have to translate it as the conceiving, or the mental construct of patigha. Patigha means aversion. When you're averse to something, unarisen anger will arise, and arisen anger will become worse, will become stronger. You're angry at something. If you're angry already and then you experience something with aversion, the anger gets worse. Suppose you're already angry and then someone starts blaring their music in the next room. If you're averse to that, it feeds your anger. But of course, anger that hasn't arisen arises because of aversion. Patigha is the cetasika, it's the quality of mind inherent in any anger. And so if you want to understand anger here, you have to understand that it's based in aversion. It's based in an object that you perceive, that you conceive of as unpleasant. You conceive of it with displeasure, with aversion. Simple as that. I mean, this isn't really all that profound. It's incredible in its ability to make things so simple, keep things so simple. The Buddha's teaching is quite practical and down to earth, simple, really. If you read it, it sounds like it's must be missing something. We don't realize how simple the reality is. And so as a result, when you're angry, we try to figure out, why we're angry, or was I maybe abused as a child or so on? Was my father maybe an angry? So it may be genetics, So you think this is simple. You think simplistic. It's because we have all the, we're far too complex. We go way beyond the truth. We ignore the simple reality. Why are you angry? Because you have aversion. You've cultivated a habit of aversion. And so our meditation practice is very much about realigning our minds, retraining our minds, cultivating new habits of objectivity, clarity. So what is it what is the one Dhamma that helps anger to subside? Metta Jeta Vimukti. Metta, friendliness. Friendliness is the one Dhamma, but again, this is conventional. But it makes metta, friendliness, a very useful practice. Because Bhayapado here is referring to people, beings. When you're angry at someone, this is a hindrance. If you're angry, it gets in the way of your practice. So cultivating loving kindness is it's a very useful support in meditation to help us to overcome these strong anger towards people, towards individuals. But on a deeper level, it's much more about just being objective. How do you really get rid of aversion to anything? You give up the judgment. When you no longer judge the experiences, whether they be pleasant or unpleasant, and there doesn't arise liking or disliking. Anyway, this is a conventional sort of teaching. So the talk about cultivating metta it's useful. It's good for us to remember as beings, as human beings. But as meditators, we go deeper than this sutta teaches. And if you read the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha says, when you're angry, just know that you're angry. How do you deal with anger? Know that you're angry. Know that anger has arisen. That's it. When you have greed, lust, know that lust has arisen. You can be objective about these things, even the bad things. Then you retrain the habit of reacting. Rather than reacting, you just experience objectively. That's the second hindrance. The third hindrance is tina midha. Tina midha. This is often translated as sloth and torpor. Bhikkhu Bodhi says dullness and drowsiness. That's how he translates tina and midha. Tina midha is the mind that is sluggish. It's this dull, or not dull, but unwieldy state of mind. When the mind has a strong focus on things. The cause, the one Dhamma that causes drowsiness, or whatever we're going to translate this as, is cetaso linatang. Linata is an interesting word. Comes from the verb liyati. Liyati. Liyati means to where's the word? To stick, to cling. So the mind, cetaso linatang, is the mental stickiness, not stickiness, but being stuck mentally, right? When your mind is unwieldy, in the sense that it isn't flexible, it isn't sharp, it isn't strong, it isn't wieldy. It's slow to move, sluggish, right? You can see this best when you begin to practice the meditation. You try to focus on the stomach rising and falling, and your mind quickly slips back into its state of dullness, its torpor. It's sort of a dream state. And you come back and you try again, and then your mind slips off thinking or whatever. You can feel it in the difficulty involved in keeping the mind again and again noting. To keep the mind coming back to the present moment requires what is the cure for Tinamidha, which is arada virya. Arada means like initiative. Virya means effort. Arada virya means effort and initiative, or initiative-based effort. The effort to do, to get up and go. In this case, to bring the mind back again to the object. You don't have to work. See, people misunderstand with effort that they should somehow push. They should somehow work to cultivate effort. But it's not really like that. It's the effort to do again and again, to not stop, to not quit, to not let the mind slip away. Do it again, again, every moment. Because it's incessant. And in the beginning, it's quite challenging. It's quite tiring. It's something that trains you in effort to come back again and again to the experience. So that's number 3. Number 4 is uddhacca kukucca. Uddhacca kukucca. Uddhacca is restlessness. Kukucca is worry. They're two different ones, two separate ones. But they both, restlessness and worry, both come from cetaso avupasamo, which means mental disquietude. Vupasama means quietude or tranquility. Avupasama means disquietude. When the mind is not quiet, when the mind is not focused, the mind is not settled. This one is, I mean, I guess they all have much just to do with time, but this one especially, it's not something you can force. This one especially, people try to force to prevent the mind from thinking, prevent the mind from wandering. But this just comes from time as the mind settles down. This is vupasama. Eventually the mind settles, it calms down. They give the analogy of a baby cow. When you have a cow and you're trying, an ox, they would train oxen to pull the carts or whatever. So they, in order to train it, they would have to take it away from its mother and tie it up. And the mind would run, the calf would run around wailing and trying to get to its mother. And kind of a cruel practice, as an analogy goes, but but as an analogy, it's this is the mind. We let the mind. You have to let the mind run, but keep a rope on it. Keep the rope of mindfulness. So when it does run, be mindful of it. Be aware. This is seeing. This is hearing. Keep the mind on a rope. It doesn't mean you tie it. It doesn't mean you have to tie it down. You just have to keep it on a rope. And eventually, the mind, like the baby calf, or young calf, will tire. And it will settle down. Once you don't give it any quarter. For the calming of the mind, there are ways to calm the mind artificially through samatha meditation. But the ultimate quieting of the mind is just cultivating the habit of experiencing the very things that cause distraction, experiencing them with focus, with clarity, without reacting. And in this case, reacting means giving rise to thought about the object. When you see something, rather than judging it and creating all sorts of mental activity about it, learn to just see it, let it go. We're so quick to react to things, no? You maybe see something on the internet and it makes you think, it makes you like it or you dislike it, you get incensed by it or you get attracted to it, and you start to think about it. It cultivates restlessness. Once you learn to see things just as they are, your mind becomes tranquil. It's quite simple. This is the cure, this is the cause, and this is the cure. They're quite, you don't have to go looking for genetic or traumatic causes for our problems. Even all of our mental illnesses, they all come from simple truths, simple realities. And number 5 is doubt. Doubt here is, I think, the most interesting in this sutta. Because what is the cause for doubt? The cause for doubt, the Buddha says, is ayoniso manasikara. Now we know these terms, those of you who are familiar with Buddhist terminology. Yoniso manasikaro. Yoniso means to the source or from the source. And manasi, in the mind, karo means to make. What it means is to keep something in mind at its very essence. Keep the essence of something in mind. Ayoniso manasikara means not keeping the essence of things in mind. What it means, I mean, that's an awkward translation. It means seeing things as they truly are, or not seeing things as they truly are, or seeing things carefully or wisely, as it's often translated, or unwisely. The meaning here is that when you experience something, you don't see it as it is. You're not clearly seeing what's truly there. Yoni means the womb, actually. It's a word that means the womb, but the reason how it's being used is the essence, the very root of the thing. So when you experience pain, if you don't see it as pain, there will arise all sorts of ideas about it. It's my pain. Is it a problem? Is it going to hurt me? Doubt is not the same as disbelieving something. It's not what it means here. Doubt is uncertainty. And uncertainty only arises when you don't see things clearly. Right? Makes sense? So if you want to solve all your uncertainty, what is the right path? Am I doing well? All these questions that meditators have, is this path helping? Is this path good? Any kind of doubt and uncertainty, can I do it? Am I good enough? All of this comes from you're not even asking the right question. You may have questions, am I good? Am I right? Is this right? Is this good? The questions themselves are a problem. Questions themselves are an indication of not seeing things clearly. If you saw things clearly, if you saw what was really going on, you wouldn't even ask. These questions and the idea behind the questions wouldn't even arise. They come from not seeing things clearly, because you start to see it in terms of I and me and past and future, and the idea of a meditation technique or practice or meditation center or something. Or in terms of your life, you see it as an issue that you have. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Is this right? Is this wrong? When you see things clearly, not only are these questions answered for you because you see whether they're right or wrong, you see the process, but you also give up asking such questions. You don't have any reason to ask. You're too busy living, you're too busy being. Doubt itself and questioning itself it's just a rabbit hole you go down and you forget. Reality is quite simple. Anyway, so good for us to remember the 5 hindrances and to think about why they're caused. But ultimately it comes down to to simply practicing insight meditation. As you practice, your mind overcomes all of these. Good to remember all 5 of them. So because what happens is you'll be practicing properly and think you're progressing, but suddenly it becomes difficult, or not suddenly, gradually it becomes difficult to practice, and you feel like you're stuck, or you're doing something wrong. If there's something wrong with your practice, it's based on these 5 hindrances. And this is where you should look. If the meditation is not progressing smoothly, it's because of all 5 of these, one or many of these. So that's the Dhamma for this evening. Now let's get into some questions. Have any questions? Are breakups and divorces due to the fading away of attachment or passing away of emotions which are impermanent? No, many causes. I mean, often it's simply because we require new things to please us. If the person in the relationship is not adapting to provide us with new stimuli, we can be attracted to a different stimuli, be attracted to a different person, and suddenly want to break up because that thing is new. That's how addiction works. The same old becomes less capable of providing pleasure. So we require new stimuli, and the same old person isn't going to provide that necessarily. That's one big reason. Another is the aversion to certain things. When you have pleasant stimuli, you're able to ignore it. But as the desire and the pleasure fades away, the displeasure in regards to a person is magnified. As a result, it can become so strong that you desire, or that you actually it's like a switch. At one point, it tips the scale, and suddenly, rather than loving the person, you hate them. Could you describe the overview of how an online course goes? Right, so an online course you should be doing. Eric, you should go. No, don't listen to all this. The online courses, you have to do at least an hour of meditation a day, half walking, half sitting, and by the end of the course, we ask you to get up to 2 hours. You require a web camera and a headset. So you have to make sure that it's all in working order, test it out. Make sure your microphone is working, make sure your earphones are working, make sure your web camera is working. And then we meet once a week, as per the meeting page. And no, you don't need to take time off work. You need to keep the 5 precepts, so familiarize yourself with them. And try to keep as close to the 8 precepts as you can, not engaging in entertainment, or not sleeping too much, not eating too much, that kind of thing. Bhante, does a newborn baby sees seeing as seeing, or is it just a case of not knowing what to call the thing when he already takes as objects? Sure, he takes as objects and entities. I don't understand. A newborn baby reacts to things that they see, just as we all do. I mean, they have this. They don't come in fresh. They have this habit of reacting to things that they see, and so they'll react with pleasure or with pain through seeing or hearing. I guess the brain is quite simple, and so as a result, the pleasure and the pain that come from seeing and hearing is quite simple. So, and the recognition process is quite simple. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really clear on what you're getting at with that question. It's somewhat speculative. I mean, why do you care? Is that really affecting your meditation practice? Yeah. I'm kind of focusing more on meditative questions. I know you have lots of these technical questions, but a little bit. I mean, and also I don't have answers to everything because I'm not the Buddha. I was curious how much a part of rules plays in meditation practice. Sometimes seems very authoritarian, does it? That's interesting. Does meditation practice seem authoritarian? Like we sit there and force you, be mindful. I mean, we have rules, but they're not exactly rules. They're, maybe that's true. If you're talking about a meditation course, there are rules. It's because you're wasting your time. If you're not keeping these rules, it's not really beneficial to you. The meditation won't progress. There are certain things that are antithetical, counterindicative to the meditation process. What do you think about asexuality? Is it more wholesome than actually having sexual attraction? Yes, because sexual attraction is unwholesome. Simple asexuality can generally good, but it often just means bottling up your sexuality, which in the long run doesn't work. So it's not the answer, but it allows you to deal with the emotions, to look at them internally rather than cultivating them, cultivating the habit of indulging. When you become asexual, you're forced to look at these feelings. And so if you have a technique that allows you to understand them and to deal with them, then it can be great. You can actually overcome them. How long does the online course usually go for? Well, if a normal course is 21 days and you don't finish the entire course online, you can't. It's the online course is about 15 weeks. One day is equal to 1 week. So we do about 15, no, maybe not, 14, somewhere around that. Maybe 12, I don't know. Maybe just 12 or 13 weeks. I haven't counted. Robin's leaving tomorrow? No? Leaving in the morning or the afternoon, evening? Oh. Tomorrow morning, Robin is leaving? Okay, the chairs as well, no? I'll help you get loaded up. I don't know what we're going to do without you.
I wish I could stay another week or two.
Or a year or two. Well, we're going to have more people coming, and hopefully someone will be able to stay and help out. We really do need someone here as a steward. Unless Michael somehow comes back, but I'm not holding my breath. I need to cultivate someone new. Find someone new who will come and practice and then stay and help. There's a couple of people who are expressed interest. No more questions? Well, that's good. We can take an early break tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. If you have more questions, if you're just typing in your question, well, save it for tomorrow. Should be here, same time, same place. Good night, everyone.